most buyers? Are they from Aruba? Are they coming from abroad? Tell me a little bit about the buyers that are investing in Aruba.
Yeah, you have to imagine that 90 to 95% of all buyers are not living here on Aruba.
What is the consequences for the buyer, for the seller, and for the agent of not doing compliance correctly?
Even though we have one of the strictest rules and regulations based on AML compliance, we are the #1 in the Caribbean in regards to investment climate.
From 2017 to now, what are the changes you have seen in real estate? Yes, you can say Caribbean, in real estate and in compliance.
You guys got a lot of fines in the beginning.
Yeah.
So there was a big challenge ahead. For us, the biggest challenge was starting from zero and going to somewhere.
Yeah, so welcome to another episode of Power of Bold Living. Today we are thrilled to have Mr. Jarno from Caribbean Identity with us. Jarno, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us here today. So tell us a little bit about Caribbean Identity.
Well, Caribbean Identity is a compliance firm. We are active since 2017 on Aruba and also active on the islands of Curacao and Bonaire. Specialized in real estate. So,
Yes, perfect.
we're also doing a lot of other markets on AML safe day compliance. And we like to automatize things and integrate it in the process of sales. I think, in short, that's who we are and what we do.
Okay, perfect. So Jarno, tell us a little bit about your background and how many years have you been now in compliance?
My background originally is Royal Dutch Marechaussee, military police. I always worked in Amsterdam Schiphol at the Expertise Center of Identity Fraud and Documents. Fake passports, fake ID cards, human trafficking, human smuggling, a lot of those things. Then I moved from Schiphol to Curacao. I was sent abroad. And I also did it over there and also some police training. Moved to Aruba, 2015. Also did a little bit of police over here. And then in 2017, I decided to start for myself. And I rolled into the compliance process here on Aruba. It was a little bit starting up at that moment. In 2017, the legislation already was here in 2011. But in 2017, the supervisory authority and the central bank, they woke up, so to speak. And they started checking out, for example, the real estate market. And then it really became an issue on Aruba that all the real estate companies needed to comply with legislation.
Yes, I remember it wasn't really easy process because mostly in the real estate market we were not so how do you say, we were not so knowledgeable about compliance in this level. So now we are more, obviously, but the challenges that you went through from 2017 to start this, tell us a little bit, because I knew, I was there when you started. So, and I knew that you got a lot of challenges, even in the Caribbean, because...
Yeah, of course, there already was legislation, of course, but there was no process of compliance integrated in the sales process of a real estate agent. And when a supervisory authority came by, of course, you guys got a lot of fines in the beginning.
Yeah.
So there was a big challenge ahead. And for us, the biggest challenge was starting from zero and going to somewhere. But to be honest, it also gives me a lot of energy. So the biggest challenge was from zero to something. But when you were at something, your span of control, of course, while we were working at with email, the more real estate agents we got as a client, the more emails we got. A little document over here, a document over there, a document like this, a document there. It was a big mess. So we thought, okay, if we want to the cost of doing business low, and we want to make sure that we have our span of control wide, we need to automatize everything. So we started automatizing the complete real estate process in compliance.
Yeah.
And that's why we started Connected.
Yes, Connected is the best thing that ever came to me as a real estate agent.
So much. Appreciate it.
This is the easiest way to do compliance. Yeah. So, you know, the process of coming with this program, how did you get started? Because I know we all started with the compliance, a lot of paperwork, and now it's easier because there's many other things that we can do with this program that you came with. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So, of course, what you're stating is right. Paper is paper. So, if, for example, if you send a paper to a potential buyer and they don't fill in all the information, then for you as a real estate agent, it is hard to go back to the buyer and say, hey,
Correct.
you did not fill in your profession, you did not fill in your address, you did not fill in how you're going to finance the property, etc., etc.
They get annoyed.
Yeah, they get annoyed. So there's a lot of, how do you call it, energy lost.
Yeah.
And it's the same if you fly to Curacao or if you fly to Aruba from abroad. If you want to fly, you need to fill in your ED card.
Yeah.
And if you don't fill in your ED card, you cannot board the plane.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, if you want to buy a house, if you want to sell a house, you need to fill in all the obligated parts. And if you don't fill it in, you're not going to buy the house.
Yeah.
Easy as that. And if the complete market does it, then you get complete information.
Yeah.
So that was a win-win from the beginning. Of course, also what we like is doing storytelling. So
Yeah.
I think if you talk about compliance, AML compliance, it's a really negative word.
Yeah. Yeah.
But compliance is much more as anti-money laundering. Compliance is also fulfilling contract law, which you guys do. I mean, you guys are intermediaries between two parties. And based on the intermediary you guys are providing to the clients, a contract is being done. And the contract is binding. So it's not only anti-money laundering legislation, it's also do you safeguard enough responsibilities from the seller part?
Making sure that the sale goes smoothly, making sure that the one that's buying can buy your property.
Because I can also sell the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
I can sell it.
Yeah.
I cannot deliver it.
Yeah. There you go.
Different thing.
Yeah.
So
That's why compliance is so crucial in real estate.
Yeah.
And what changes have you seen in the from 2017 to now? What are the changes you have seen in real estate? Yes, you can say Caribbean and real estate and in compliance.
Yeah. Well, there's a difference between Aruba and the Caribbean. Let's be honest about that. I mean, Aruba is here.
Okay.
And that means legislation is really strict. The supervisory authority is really active. And they also know exactly what they're doing. And it also means that the last few years, they adapted as well to make sure that the market is complying more with rules and regulations in regards to the beginning. To give you an example, in 2017 or 2018, when the supervisory authority wanted to do a check with you, it was really easy. Can I see your AML CFT manual? Oh, you don't have it? Fine. Do you have risk profiles with your buyers? Oh, you don't have it? Fine. Did you do a PEP and a sanction check? Oh, you didn't do it? Fine. Did you do FIU reporting? Fine. So it was really easy to give fines in the beginning of the compliance trajectory which was started on Aruba. Nowadays, most real estate companies, I think on Aruba, we have our company has the compliance for 65 or 75 real estate companies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think we do it to 95% of the market.
Wow. So you have a great understanding and maybe even data about, the sales and, the buyers that are buying.
Yeah.
And how from that 95%, how many you can say are the ones that doesn't go through? So what are the main reasons that something cannot go through?
Well, sometimes you see certain people coming by. I mean, it's always, you have to imagine that 90 to 95% of all buyers are not living here on Aruba. So Aruba is an interesting market for the US, Canada, the Netherlands, but also from Colombia and a lot of other islands worldwide who are
Because of our
investing
safety?
on Aruba.
Because of our safety?
Yeah, and also the investment client. I mean, even though we have one of the strictest rules and regulations based on AML compliance, we are the number one in the Caribbean in regards to investment climate. So even though Aruba is really strict on compliance regulations, luckily we integrated it very good into the sales process on which the investment opportunities for people who want to invest in Aruba is really high.
Yeah.
So that's really good to see. I think the market did it themselves. And if you compare it with other islands, for example, I mean, we do business on Sint Maarten, on Bonaire, on Curaçao. I think the quality of Aruba, let's say nicely, is much better if I compare it to other islands in the region. But it also means because there's more regulation over here, the cost of doing business is also higher on Aruba if you compare it with other islands.
True.
And that's also what we need to make sure that the gap doesn't get too big with other islands. So that's a challenge, but I think we will manage.
Well, I think we're doing very good because you already have like 95% of the real estate agents, but there's still the 5%. So what is the consequences for the buyer, for the seller, and for the agent of not doing compliance correctly?
Well, I think, to be honest, I think all real estate agents who are doing business on Aruba have a compliance officer. That doesn't mean that the 5% doesn't have a compliance officer. There are a few other officers on Aruba who also do the same as that we are doing it. I think we're doing it a little bit differently because we like to automatize things.
Yeah.
But all real estate active.
They need to. But
yeah. And
if they don't,
yeah, if they don't, well, if they get checked, for example, by the supervisory authority, they can get fines, and that's one. They can co-commit money laundering.
and it's a consequence for the buyer and for the seller as well.
Well, it's of course it's a consequence for the real estate agent.
Yeah.
I mean, compliance is, like I stated, compliance is more as anti-money laundering legislation. Compliance is also safeguarding the quality of the contract from the buyers or from the seller perspective.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of things that sometimes, for example, I'm gonna give you an example. If a seller is a legal entity, in the beginning there was a shareholder who was doing all the contracts of the seller perspective, but he was not a director. But that means if a real estate agent doesn't pay attention that the only person who's authorized to perform a transaction of the company is the director, not the shareholder, then the contract is also not valid. So maybe in a future trajectory, the seller wants to get out, and then they can say, oh, but Eileen, the contract was not signed by our director, so it's not valid anymore, so we're not going to sell anymore. So it's really important to do safeguarding in regards to contract law and compliance.
Yes, I think as a seller or as a buyer, that's a good question as well when you're interviewing your realtor. Do you have compliance in place? Who does your compliance? Either or, there are many compliance officers out there that do a very great job. So there are choices.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we were talking about the data and the buyers that come to Aruba. So can you elaborate a little bit about what are the most buyers? Are they from Aruba? Are they coming from abroad? Tell me a little bit about the buyers that are investing in Aruba.
Yeah. Well, if you see for example, if you compare Curaçao, Bonaire, and Aruba together, it's completely different. And for example, on Curaçao, most buyers are Dutch PL. And it also means Curaçao is really European orientated, and Bonaire as well. On Aruba, it's completely different. Aruba is originally always an island from the US perspective and from the Canadian perspective as interesting for investment opportunities. So I think top 5 buyer categories are US, Canada, then I think locals, and then a lot of 0 minus 1%. So Colombia, Spain, but also Eastern European countries, for example, which is upcoming, which is also interesting, of course, because,
Tell us a little bit about that because that interests me a lot.
You see a lot of Eastern European countries are making more and more money the last decade.
Yeah.
And they also want to invest abroad. To give an example, I just returned from a holiday. I went to Czechia, Prague.
Yeah, beautiful.
If I compare Prague nowadays with 20 years back, I'm getting older a little bit, so 20 years back, it's a lot of economy. The country is booming, let's say. And that also means from an investment perspective, people want to invest abroad. So also a lot of Eastern European countries are coming over here to invest.
Yes, and I think younger generation are buying from younger ages.
Well, nowadays you can just take out a shovel and shovel in all the money. I mean, it's strange what happens nowadays, like with the crypto and the investment. So
I was about to ask that about. I know we're not there yet, but this is something coming up. I think Bitcoin. Can you tell me a little bit, what do you think is going to happen with Bitcoin as buying in the Caribbean? I'm talking about Caribbean because I know Aruba, we're not there yet. We don't accept Bitcoin.
No, that's not entirely true.
Okay.
To give you an example, that it is not prohibited to buy or sell real estate with Bitcoin.
Okay.
The problem is, so that also means from the legislation. So in the LWTF, the sanction ordinance of the AML legislation of Aruba, also the legislator already made a note in regards to cryptocurrency. So they're also already anticipating on what will come. But the banks over here do not feel the risk appetite to facilitate in those transactions, because why should they? Why should they at this moment cohere to extra risks and go off traditional banking to, for example, cryptocurrency transactions? So that means even though it is not prohibited, it is allowed.
Yeah.
The banking system over here doesn't think it is time at this moment to facilitate that process in regards to
the payment. But compliance-wise, this can be, how do you say, you can see all the steps of the cryptocurrency, right? Of the Bitcoin. So for compliance, actually, it can be accepted.
Well, it is yes and no. I mean, for example, of course, when you have a buyer and the buyer wants to pay in crypto, then, and this is of course now a little bit tussen aanhalingstekens. So
we're not there yet, but
don't take my word for it. But this is my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Number one, if you facilitate in the real estate transactions, you always have to do overdrachtsbelasting.
Yeah. Basics.
And it also means that at a certain moment, the cryptocurrency needs to be converted to the local currency to make sure that the taxes are being paid, and also the overdrachtsbelasting can be done properly. So that means the buyer and seller need to agree on a certain value, on a certain date and a certain time, maybe with the notary public, in which they will say, okay, at this moment, at this time, this is the value of the transaction. So it will be converted from crypto into Aruban florins for the tax purposes. And that will be the value that will also be established in the contract. That is a possibility.
Yeah.
And based on that, the buyer can do a transfer to the seller's wallet for the cryptocurrency. From the compliance perspective, of course, it's interesting to see how did somebody obtain their crypto.
Yeah.
Okay, so of course it is a ledger, but it's not as easy as that. I mean, the most interesting client for us as a compliance officer, for example, that somebody bought 10 Bitcoin when it was $1, and now it is $600,000, so to speak. That's for us the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
But it is possible to do from cold storage in cryptocurrency, change it. It's not really my, how do you call it, cup of coffee, so I don't know exactly how it works. But
it's interesting.
It's not as easy as that it sounds.
Yeah, but I think it's coming though. I think it's coming.
It will.
There's a future. Okay, but Jarno, what is next for Caribbean Identity? So what are you going to keep changing? What are the programs that you're gonna be innovating?
Yeah. Yeah, of course, like stated, I just returned from holiday, so I have a lot of new energy. I'm loaded up, so full of energy.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. So
go more to vacation so you can keep it.
Yeah, maybe I need to do that a little bit more often. No, at this moment we're doing a lot of real estate. We're doing a lot of project development. We're doing a little bit of notaries, which we are cycling around. We're doing jewelers, car dealers.
Yes.
We're doing
Casino?
Yeah, it's not really my cup of coffee.
Okay. They have to do compliance as well.
Yeah. No, but now we're going to other markets. I cannot say specific what we're doing over here, based on competition advantages, of course. So let's say we're busy always changing and doing more.
Yes, I think right now the buyers and the seller are more informed about the compliance, so it's easier, because in the beginning it was a lot difficult because they didn't want to give us, like the brokers or the agent, the information. Because they say, why should I give you the information? So now it's better, and you have seen it as well, right?
Yeah. And it's kind of educational as well. I mean, it's like riding a bike. The moment you start riding a bike, the first time you get on the bike, your father is pushing you. You have little side wheels, and then your father doesn't push you anymore, but you're only riding on the side wheels. Then you're riding by yourself. And nowadays, when you enter on the bike, you're not even thinking anymore. It's an automatic thing. So it's the same with something new. If something new happens, everybody needs to adapt. It always takes a little bit of time on which something which is adapted is integrated in the sales process. But I think at this moment, the best thing what everybody is doing here in Aruba, they integrated compliance in their sales process based on quality perspective, contract law. So if somebody wants to finance something with their own means, it's a normal question to say, okay, listen, show me the money. Yeah, because if you do not have on the voorbehoud for financiering, then show me that you have sufficient funds available, how they are available, then you got safeguard in the contract for the seller.
And it's easy to show. I mean, if it's clean, it's easy, right? So I know also your company, how many people are working with you now?
We just hired another person. He's starting 1st of October. So then we are with 6 people.
You have a co-owner as well. She's a woman. She does very nice, very good. We work a lot with her. And what I like about your company is that you do educate all agents. You give extra classes as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
Of course, we're also obligated to do.
I
mean, we like to do a full package. So we maintain a perspective that we want to be the compliance officer from A to Z. So everything in it. So you only can sell, and we take care of the rest. But it also means that we want to bring all real estate agents together. We want to bring, for example, last time we had a training also, we invited the FIU to give a presentation. We want to invite all stakeholders together and have conversations on how we make things simpler, better, more efficient, which also benefits the buyer and the seller, of course.
And we as agents should be having 2 classes a year. To comply with the central bank. So that's something that we have to do.
The next one we're doing in November.
I know. I am in. No, but thank you so much. This is very interesting, mostly for the buyers and sellers out there to understand compliance, how important it is. And also for every agent, we have gone through it with you or with other companies because it has changed during the years. Is there something that you say has changed or that is been better now that it was in the beginning, that you can say, okay, this is one thing that is right now in the right place?
I think the market evolved by itself. So everybody took their professional steps to make sure that they cohere with legislation. And also think from the supervisory perspective, they also invested on knowledge. And when they are conducting a supervisory audit, it's more quality perspective. So I think the markets and the stakeholders, and from the government and from the semi-government together, are more balanced as that it was in the beginning.
I think it's going to be less fines as well. Suppose
if there's too less
if we're
fines,
doing the right job,
I'm out of a job. If there's too less fines, so there always needs to now just talk. I was kidding. I don't know. There always is a balance, and let's see.
Well, thank you so much, Jarno. It was a pleasure to have you in our podcast. And if you have any question, or is there if someone out there has any question about compliance and wants to go direct to compliance, is this possible?
Yeah, of course, they can also contact us, go to our website, creatinidentity.com, and check out who we are and what we do. And if somebody's interested, they can send an email or do a WhatsApp.
You are in Aruba, Curaçao, St. Martin, Bonaire.
No, we are focusing on Aruba and Curaçao. Curaçao is a little bit upcoming markets.
You're there as well.
Yeah, you're also there as well. And you see a little bit of difference because the supervisory authority is not as active as on Aruba.
Okay.
So that means I think at Curaçao they're now at 2018. Where Aruba was in 2018, they're now at 2018. So everybody's talking why, but it's a question of time that they also.
But you just said in the beginning, that a lot of buyers in Curaçao are Dutch. So they are mostly used to this already, actually.
No. Dutch if for example, if you have a buyer from the US and you want to ask them from financial information, nobody cares. Everybody gives you everything.
Yeah.
Because if I want to find out something about a US citizen, I can find out everything.
Yeah.
Because there's not really privacy over there.
Yeah.
In the Netherlands, completely different. Everybody doesn't want to provide certain financial information because there's also the General Data Regulation, de GDPR, AVG, Algemene Verordening Persoonsgegevens. So privacy perspective is much more in the Netherlands. And it's interesting to see because people from the Netherlands who are buying on a Curaçao, they think that Curaçao is the Netherlands. This is of course not the case. It's a complete different country with the other central bank. But yeah.
It's going to take time for them to get used to this because I remember in the beginning it was a lot of pushback.
On the pressure, everything gets fluid. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how it works.
Well, in the end of the day, we will see. I'm excited to see how Curaçao is going to evolve in the compliance.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jarno. It was a pleasure having you in our podcast. And yes, I'll see you next time again. Thank you.
Bon.